Hello, and welcome to Inspired Game Review's look at Fallout 4. Bethesda Softworks' latest entry into the Fallout series has been widely hyped by games, media and fans alike, and because of that, expectations are high, with many expecting it to be a contender for Game of the Year. Keep watching, and we'll tell you whether we believe that the game lives up to its hype.
The game begins in 2077 in the town of Sanctuary Hills. After a short video intro, the first thing the player needs to do is create their character's look. The character creation tool allows a great deal of freedom, more than previous games in the series, with it being very akin to The Sims 4. You have freeform control of each part of the character's face. You can now change how thin, fat or muscular they are using a triangle slider. In fact, this is the only slider in the character creator. The rest of it is just decided by clicking on a part and dragging it around. This degree of freedom makes the character creator in Fallout 4 easily the best in the series, with the possibilities being almost endless. This system is one that we both really enjoyed, not just being the best in the series, but one of the best out of any RPG that we have seen.
An early game choice in all Fallout games is how to distribute special stat points. These stats are vital in defining the sort of playstyle your character will have, with each stat having its own unique perks and bonuses. The system has been changed considerably since the previous Fallout games, with what used to be skills replaced with a new perk system, and there only being 21 points to distribute and a starting value of 1 for each stat. The perks are based on the number of stat points you assign, with you having immediate access to any perks that are available in that stat. For example, if you put 10 points into strength, you will have access to the first rank of the perk Pain Train at level 2, which grants a powerful boost to your power armor immediately. Every time you level, you get a choice of either adding a point to special, or choosing a new perk. The whole system is a lot more flexible despite being more streamlined, with a larger variety of builds being possible. We both loved the new system, and for our main playthroughs we had very different builds.
The Fallout series, while being an RPG at its core, has for the past few games had quite a focus on first-person shooting mechanics, and Fallout 4 is no exception to this. Gunplay mechanics have been expanded and improved. It feels more in line with other shooters such as Destiny, a game which I feel has excellent shooting mechanics. You can also play the game in third person, and while not as refined as first person, it is leaps and bounds ahead of Fallout 3 in animations and shooting mechanics.
Along with the changes to the gunplay, the melee combat mechanics have seen some significant changes since the previous entries in the series. Melee combat feels incredibly satisfying, with weapons feeling they have appropriate weight to them, and the ability to fully parry an enemy's melee attacks makes defensive play much more viable. There are some really solid perks attached to melee combat as well, including one that makes VATs actually worth using for melee combat. Limb damage feels great in melee combat too, with the ability to damage and outright remove enemy limbs. While melee combat is not what people would usually see as being the main way to play a Fallout game, Fallout 4 does it very well, to the point where it's viable as a main build. There are also a great variety of melee weapons, ranging from small knives all the way up to sledgehammers, and they all feel very different to fight with depending on the weapon speed.
Fallout 4 is the first in the series to feature an in-depth crafting system. Pretty much every weapon in the game, whether it be melee or gun, can be customised with a large variety of mods, which not only changed the stats of the weapons, they also changed how they handle. So you could turn a regular laser rifle into a full auto laser sniper rifle. We feel this is a great addition to the game, as it not only increases the amount of weapons, it increases the variety of weapons. As well as being able to modify weapons, armour is also able to be modified in the same way. Both standard armour and power armour have a variety of mods available, all of which make the armour better in some way, from adding extra carry weight to increasing damage done, to even marking enemies upon looking at them. The armour modding works in pretty much exactly the same way as the weapon modding, and as such it works really well with great customizability and variety. While on the subject of crafting, Fallout 4 also introduces a base building system. Throughout the game's world there are settlements which you can essentially pull apart and then build back up in whichever way you can think of. As you build these settlements, settlers will begin to inhabit them. In order to keep these settlers happy, you will need to provide food, water and suitable living space for them. The settlements will also occasionally get attacked by raiders and various mutant creatures, so you also have to build suitable defence ranging from walls to turrets to even artillery.
Without spoiling anything, we don't really see much purpose of the settlements outside of one of the main story arcs. As long as suitable defences in place alongside food and water, the attacks become less frequent, if at all, and the settlement doesn't really provide anything other than a personalised home base with characters populating them. There is also an issue with the building mechanics, and that objects don't always snap into place where they would be expected to, which can be quite tedious at times. Since Fallout 4 is a Bethesda RPG, it would be a mistake not to talk about the game's world. While at a glance it doesn't appear to be as big as some of Bethesda's previous game worlds, it does make use of nearly all of the map, and there are way more points of interest in the world than past games. It's pretty hard not to bump into a place worth exploring while travelling. There are also many instances of storytelling within the world, such as skeletons of people who died when the nukes dropped. They all have their own little stories to tell just by looking at them, and it's little details like this that truly make the world of Fallout 4 what it is.
To go along with the excellent world, there are plenty of collectibles and interactive elements to claim. Making a return from previous games are bobbleheads, which grant a permanent bonus to a stat or a boost to various forms of skills. For example, there is one that grants a 25% damage boost to explosives. Also making a return, albeit in slightly different form, is magazines, which grant a small but permanent boost. For example, the Grognak magazines each grant you 5% increased melee damage permanently. These collectibles alone add a great deal of exploration to the game, as you can easily spend dozens of hours looking for them all. These are not, however, the only reasons to acquire the collectibles. The Robco Fun magazines each grant you a holotape that contains a game that you can play using your Pip-Boy. These give you a good distraction within the game, but they do get old quite quickly. That said, for completionists, they are definitely worth picking up, and they do provide a good bit of nostalgia for people that may have played the games they are based off. We both really like the number of collectibles in the game, but feel that perhaps there could have been a few more that add character customization options. This is probably something that will be added to the game in DLC packs, but it would have been nice to see it in the base game.
Obviously the main meat of a Fallout game is the questing, and the main story provides a direction for the player to go in. Since this review is aiming to remain as spoiler-free as possible, we won't be discussing specifics of the story, but what we will say is that there are 4 unique paths the player can take after an initial linear section. Unfortunately, as is the case with recent Bethesda games, the main story is weak. That said, it does have its moments, with the player character having a soul-searching experience throughout the story. The story is unfortunately guilty of being very much just a distraction from the exploration of the world that the game offers. This is something that Bethesda have been guilty of since Oblivion, and sadly the main story doesn't really have much of anything to hold the player in for the whole length. The enjoyable parts of the story are far too short to make up for this, and it takes away from the game as a whole. However, side quests are a different thing entirely. A lot of side quests are found through exploring the world, with many being attached to radio stations that are only picked up within a small area. The game feels as though it has more side quests than any other recent game in the series. The quests themselves are more compelling and have more freedom in the ways you can complete them, with multiple possible endings tied to how you went about them.
Many of these quests also lead into gaining companions. There are 13 companions in total, and all have their own unique abilities. For example, Dogmeat, the first companion you will encounter in an average playthrough, has the ability to hold enemies down in combat, allowing you to take easier shots. Each companion, with the exception of Dogmeat, also has an additional perk that is acquired when you get to maximum happiness. We both like the companions and the variety they bring, however we also appreciate the fact that if you do not wish to have a companion around, you can take a perk that allows you to operate alone more freely.
Another main feature of the Fallout series that has been majorly changed for Fallout 4 is the dialogue system. Unfortunately, these changes are really not good, as the limited information you're given to choose dialogue options often leaves your character saying something you are not expecting them to, or in a tone of voice that appears to not line up. For example, often the choices are only one word each, which gives basically no information to the player. This is probably the weakest aspect of the game, and really detracts from it in a big way, as you can often change the entire course of a conversation just from one dialogue mistake. And of course, this being a Bethesda game, there are many bugs. During our playthroughs, we have seen NPCs randomly walk off roofs, teleport into beds and wake up in non-pathfindable areas, and clip through doorways allowing you to shoot them. We have also noticed that NPCs' belongings vanish after a period of time, and various crashes when the console versions of the game struggle to render areas quickly enough.
There are also various exploits that allow you to duplicate items in caps. We will not be shown how to do them here, but they are widely known at this point. The other main exploit we have found is one where you can effectively create infinitely sized settlements, overriding the limit on objects the game places on them. This one is far more positive and allows a great deal of more freedom. We hope that Bethesda either remove the settlement object limit or leave this particular exploit in the game.
And of course, no discussion on bugs would be complete without talking about how the game runs on its various platforms. On launch, there are issues with the game not running at 30 FPS all the time on the console releases, especially when a large amount of particle effects are present in the game world. This leads to a great deal of stuttering at times and is more visibly an issue on the Xbox One version of the game. The PC version also has a similar performance issue, though due to the greater customizability of the graphics options, this can be worked around. Some systems are able to avoid the problem pretty much altogether with enough graphics horsepower, and this leads me to say that for people with a good gaming PC, that this is the version of the game they should be playing. This, as well as more complete mod support, have always been reasons that the PC is the best platform for Bethesda games, and this remains true with Fallout 4. Fallout 4 is definitely far from perfect. As with other Bethesda games, there are many issues with various aspects of the game, with the dialogue specifically being the biggest. However, despite these negative aspects, Bethesda have once again produced a compelling world with plenty to do, and for the first time in the series, the gunplay and melee combat are both worthy of your time. To us, the positive aspects of the game manage to outweigh the negative aspects, and we feel Fallout 4 is definitely worth picking up, especially if you are new to the series and have played a first-person shooter in the past.